Hey guys, what's up? If you're a triathlete or swimmer and you're looking specifically for a goggle that you can use in open water to cut down on the fog and the glare caused by the sun, stick around because we have reviewed 4 of the best-selling goggles of 2015. So what we've got here are 4 of the best-selling and hottest goggles of 2015. What we're reviewing today are the Zoggs Predator Flex Polarized Ultra. So when these showed up, I was expecting a lot from these Zoggs goggles because they were damn expensive, coming in at 50 bucks. And you know what? They're decent goggles, but are they worth 50 bucks? That I'm not so sure about. So I'm going to tell you what I think about the Zoggs goggles and all the rest based on 6 factors. Those being comfort, ease of fit, suction, fog, glare and visibility, and of course looks, because they gotta look good on you. So as far as the Zoggs go, they were kind of comfortable. The issue that I had with them is that coming out of the box, they were very stiff, and it was like a new pair of shoes that they took a while to break in. So the first time that I used them, they pinched the nose, causing a fair bit of soreness. But as that went away, this big silicone membrane did suck onto the eye, and it became fairly comfortable. But the one issue that I had, even as it broke in, was that you had to keep the goggles fairly tight, which took away from the softness of that silicone membrane. So they were kind of comfortable, but they weren't as comfortable as I was expecting. As far as the ease of fit goes, it's fairly easy to get them to fit to your face. The ratchet system on the side here just clicks back and forth very easily, so there's not a lot of farting around in behind with a clasp or loosening, tightening, readjusting. But once I got that tightness dialed in, they weren't that fussy at all to keep the water out. As far as the suction goes, once you did find that right amount of tightness and you sucked it down to your eyes, they sucked on really well. A lot of sucking going on here. They sucked on really well, and I didn't have to worry about water getting in too much. The one big downside to these goggles is that because they're a very high profile goggle and they sit past your eye socket quite a bit, if you're diving off the blocks, water is rushing past your face and the water catches these goggles. So it flew off my face.
No, that didn't go too smoothly.
No, these ones didn't go so well.
I would say that I'll probably never use these goggles for diving off the blocks. As far as fog goes, I was really intrigued to see what this super secret sauce that Zoggs claims keeps these basically fog free, and it really wasn't anything special. They did fog up a fair bit in the pool. When I was in cold water, they fogged up a lot less, but they're certainly not invincible to fog. Now, as far as the glare and visibility goes, once you find a goggle that fits to your face, this is probably the most important factor in deciding which pair of open water triathlon goggles you're going to use. And I wasn't overly impressed with the Zoggs. They've got a decent viewing angle, but you certainly do see the sides of the goggle when you've got them on. And they've got a really interesting tint. If you remember those sunglass infomercials back in the 90s,
believe your eyes.
Wow, these are fantastic.
The clarity is just great.
that's kind of what it's like, but the downside to that is that doesn't cut down on the glare from the sun. What it does is it makes things like trees, buoys, waves, water, it makes it much more vibrant. So these goggles would be really good on a day when it's overcast or the sun is high in the sky if you're doing a mid-afternoon swim. I wouldn't necessarily recommend these if you're going to be swimming and the sun is low early in the morning. As far as looks go, they're a very industrial looking goggle. I'm not a huge fan of the plain gray. If you see any of my other videos, you know that I like big, loud, bold colors. This doesn't quite cut it. There is a red and white color, and I like that a fair bit better. But as far as looks go, I mean, it's not horrible, it's not plain Jane, just not my style. So in general, Zoggs coming in at 50 bucks is basically twice as expensive as most of the other goggles that we've tried here. Do I think they're twice as good? No, I don't. Are they a decent goggle? Yeah, they're okay. If I had to explain in a nutshell what I feel about Zoggs, is that they're too fancy for their own good, so they price themselves out of the market, and all the fancy features that they claim to have, they're not that groundbreaking. So where Zoggs fit in really well, like I say, is they're the best goggle of any that I've tried for that midday swim where the sun is high and there's not a lot of glare in the water. They're going to give you the crispest vision, crispiest? I don't actually know. The crispest vision of any of the goggles for a midday swim, and that's when they'd be really good. So they're not a terrible goggle, but paying $50, I would have expected them to be a lot better than they are. So that is it for the Zoggs, but before you go, if you are interested in the other goggle reviews, if you're watching on a computer, I'll put a link up here, or if you're not watching on a computer, there will be a link in the description below to all of the other goggle reviews and the wrap up that we do once it's up. If you want to make sure that you don't miss those videos as they come out, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on a computer, you can click on me to do that, or the subscribe up here. And if you're watching on a smartphone, just hit the subscribe button below. And if you're a regular A-Race subscriber, thank you for watching, liking, and commenting. We'll see you in the next goggle video. Kill your next A-Race.